Welcome in. This is your ZOZO Championship live chat Wednesday ownership question and answer, and now featuring the latest COVID-19 WD, which, if you have not heard, is Adam Scott. So Adam Scott should be removed from your lineups, from your one and done picks, from your whatever else that you have him in, because he's tested positive and he is out for this week's ZOZO Championship. So that's number one. Number two, this live chat is brought to you and presented by Jock Market, which was it's phenomenal every week. It was phenomenal again last week. We'll talk about the strategy there and everything shortly, but that's stock market DFS that has a cash market this week to go along with the cash market last week. It was absolutely phenomenal stuff. Additionally, go ahead and drop your questions into the chat. I'll get through as many of them as possible. And also, while you're here and hanging out, do me a favor and hit the like button to show a little love. Hoping to try to keep this time spot for weeks moving forward. Try to keep this like 3 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesday for live chat. So that's the goal. Fingers crossed. Couple of things out of the gate here before we jump into these questions. Let's talk about Sherwood Country Club for a second, because quite frankly, my opinion on this has kind of changed a little bit throughout the week. So you have to realize, when I do the full course preview on Monday, or the DFS preview on Monday, I'm doing a lot of speculating. I'm using a lot of recent data, and obviously we don't have a lot of recent data or any recent data for Sherwood Country Club. I probably made comments thinking that it was going to play probably to 14, 15 under par is the winner, as it has historically here. I no longer think that's the case. I think it's going to be much easier. So this was coming out of insight from Tiger Woods' Tuesday presser, where he basically talked about how soft it was. He also mentioned that they did a complete, they flattened out a lot of the greens to make them more member friendly, which, if you're reading between the lines, it means a lot easier, right? For the membership, takes the hills out, makes a lot more flat, straight putts. He said he thinks there's going to be a lot of low scores, and throw that in with the 5 par 5s. I think we get to maybe 20, 22 under par. I think it could turn into something like that. So just wanted to clarify my thoughts and comments around what Sherwood could potentially play like for this week. But let's go ahead and jump into some of these questions. Tyler Stevens asks, let me get my thing here. Just saw your Henley fade. So he's referring to my fades video. Who do you think could be a better play in DraftKings for around his price? All right, let's jump over to the cheat sheet. As always, this is all the tools that you see here are going to be available on RickRunGood.com. Highly suggest you taking advantage of a monthly membership. It'll take you through the Masters. So I mentioned Henley as a fade. He's $8,100. He's right here because it feels just like you're chasing points, right? He had a great finish last week. He finished third. Feels like you're chasing points a little bit now that he is $1,000 more expensive. If you notice that was a script that I have written that brings up DraftKings every day at like 12:03 so that I automatically claim the reward. That is what you were seeing there. So the reason I didn't necessarily like Henley is because he's $1,000 more expensive. He's going to be a bit more popular this week. It's just golf is volatile enough. I don't need to chase these points. So who else in this range? Well, Adam Scott is out. Abraham Answer, I think, is very interesting, right? I mean, this is not a particularly long course, especially with the 5 par 5s. So you get a situation where, he contends in so many big events, right? A lot of WGC events. He had a 4th place finish at Shriners a couple of weeks ago. Seems to find himself, no matter the field, no matter the course, in a good position. So I like him, but I'm also willing to forgive and forget on Jason Day. Let me see if I can pull this up really quickly here. I'll pull you up the live leaderboard because, he was I think he was 10 under par through 3 rounds last week. He was just rocking and rolling, and he, I guess, slept on his neck wrong on Saturday night, had a neck injury on Sunday, and he withdrew after making triple bogey on his first hole. So if you look at the live leaderboard, you'll see even without the 17 holes that he played, he was still third in strokes gained tee to green last week. Now, if he's playing this week, I imagine he's feeling good enough. It's a calculated risk. I have him projected coming in at 4% ownership. I think that Day is a guy that you can go back to. You'll have to stomach it. You know, it would really be a pivot you'd have to stomach, but I think that those are some of the better options. Cole asks, hey, Rick, what are your thoughts on Matthew Fitzpatrick this week? I'm not generally a big Matthew Fitzpatrick guy. We can look up his stats here. So we'll look up what he's done recently. So here's my concern with Matthew Fitzpatrick. It's kind of a concern. There were 2 events, and I guess 3 events, Workday, Charity Open, Memorial, and the WGC FedEx St. Jude, where he was absolutely bonkers with his putter. He gained 4 strokes at the Workday, 8 on the field at the Memorial, and 10 at WGC FedEx St. Jude. Now, that's not going to continue to happen, so I'm not usually a big Matthew Fitzpatrick guy, but what I will say is this: he's now gained strokes on approach for 3 straight events, which is something we haven't seen him do in quite some time, and I at least like to know that he has that putting upside, especially if this does turn into a putting contest, which Tiger kind of alluded to a little bit with these flat greens. I guess safe to say I'm a little bit more warm on Matthew Fitzpatrick this week than I am on most. Oliver says, when creating custom model on RickRunGood, what is your standard number of rounds you use per player? Is it possible to customize the number of rounds calculated per user? So Oliver is referencing the custom model on rickrungood.com, where you can punch in 100 different weights into these categories, and it will result in, you know, your players for that week. I did it on the DFS Monday video. So, okay, 2 things, couple things, maybe 3. Right now, the way this custom model was originally built, it was using season data. So it was using all of your data from 2020. Now it's using a hybrid of 2020 and 2021 data, since we don't have enough data for every player to get into 2021. With that all being said, I'm working on a new version of this custom model, and the goal is to allow you to not only change the time frame, but then also use your guys in the model in the lineup optimizer. I don't know how far away that is. It's a huge project. I'm making progress on it. I've enlisted the help of a buddy of mine, but that's the plan. So fingers crossed we'll get there. Right now I use it to identify a lot of great plays as well. Thoughts on Adam Long this week? And it would be cool if you could put him in a head-to-head with Harry Higgs. That's from Tokyo Swan. Okay, let's do it. Head-to-head with Harry Higgs. So I'm going to change the date range to be the start of 2020. I'm going to pull up Adam Long, and I'm going to pull up Harry Higgs. And what this model will do is it'll pit them together against each other in a 4-round matchup based on their strokes gained data. And I have Adam Long winning this about 54% of the time to Harry Higgs's 45% of the time, meaning Adam Long would be about minus 119. My general thoughts on Adam Long are fine. I think that he is at least better than the vast majority of his peers down in the $6,000 range. So the bottom of this player pool is filled with guys that are getting the 8 sponsors exemptions from, or the exemptions from the Japanese tour. So you have guys like Sean Norris, Brad Kennedy, Gunn Cherolenko. I don't know who that is. So when you're talking about only a $400 difference or a $300 difference between those guys, I do think that the real PGA Tour pros in the bottom half of the $6,000 range are inherently more valuable because of the pricing against their peers. No talk about Rose this week. He's so cheap. I know he's been bad, but still. That's from Biggie Balls. Thank you, Biggie Balls, for your comment. $7,400 for Justin Rose. You are not wrong. He's been bad. Let's pull it up. I think maybe the good news or the bad news about Rose is that he's been just like it was incredibly volatile. So, he played well at the PGA Championship. He played well to come out of the restart. I actually think he played decently well in the European Tour event. I'll pull it up here real quick. I think he played the BMW PGA Championship. I'll get you his finish over there. He finished T37, so nothing to write home about, I guess, and then a 52nd place finish at the CJ Cup. So I don't know. I mean, you're just banking on long-term form at this point. I think it's nice that a couple of times in the restart, he has been really good from tee to green. It's just very volatile. So know what you're getting yourself into. We're not in a version of Justin Rose that is incredibly consistent at the moment. I just lost my spot. Hold on. Let me go back. JG asks, with 5 par 5s, can you look at the scoring leaders on par 5s? Sure. So what I can do is I can go to the course key stats. I can scroll down to the bottom and I can choose any official stat on the PGA Tour. So they're broken down by stat category and then they're broken down by stat. So we'll go to scoring because that's where you find par 5 scoring. And we can either do par 5 birdie or better, or we can do par 5 scoring average. You asked for par 5 scoring. I'll give you that. And we will sort this. It's down here in the bottom left-hand corner. So tops in this field, Xander Schauffele is 11,200. John Rahm is second. You get a little bit of value on Daniel Berger at 8,900. He's third in this field in par 5 scoring, and he's much cheaper than the other guys around him. Other values would be Gary Woodland and Justin Rose. They rank in a tie for 11th in this stat category. And then super, super deep, Paul Casey, Kevin Streelman and Alex Noren are both sub 7,000, and they are in the top 15 or 16 of par 5 scoring on the tour. And if you want to go really, really deep, Mark Hubbard is $6,400, and he's in the top 25 or so. So that's par 5 scoring. You can do any stat that you'd like here on RickRunGood.com. Civic Boy 489 asks, who's your favorite one and done pick for this week overall? Steering, clear of the big studs this week, but I don't want to dig too far down. Then I think the answer is, I'm probably going with Patrick Reed in most situations. I bet him. I think I picked him in the Golf Digest article. I just thought the value of 25-1 on him was too good. I also do like him in a one and done situation. You have to remember people, and I've said this probably countless times in the last couple of months, people really don't realize the type of events that Patrick Reed wins, right? I mean, he has, I think, 8 wins on the PGA Tour. 6 of them are 2 playoff events, 2 WGCs, a Tournament of Champions, and the Masters. So those are basically all short field, deep fields, right? Yeah, they're smaller, but there's a lot of great players in them. So this is exactly that type of field. Played incredibly well over in Europe 2 weeks ago. He didn't play last week. Played well at the U.S. Open. I really like Patrick Reed in this situation. If you want to go deeper than that, I would consider going to maybe a Bubba Watson. I know it's not one of the Bubba tracks, but those would probably be the 2 guys that I would narrow it down to if I were you, Civic Boy. Hank Hill asks, how do you feel about Sung Jae Im this week? I know last week wasn't great, but he outpaced his position by a good amount like Spieth did. Indeed. So what Hank Hill is referencing is the fact that, someone like a Jordan Spieth who finished in a tie for 38th in the tournament, but finished 13th in DraftKings scoring. And Sung Jae Im also outpaced his finishing position. He finished like 25th in DraftKings scoring. He finished 45th in the tournament. So that's what he's referencing. We can pull up Sung Jae. I'm always very bullish on Sung Jae. I think he has some of the best raw talent around, quite frankly, and when he's going well, he's playing well from tee to green, and we didn't see that at Shadow Creek. The good news is we saw it at Shriners, we saw it at the U.S. Open. He's a lot more volatile now in the restart than he was before the shutdown. So I think any week you could get this version of Sung Jae, which is him gaining 9 strokes from tee to green, the ball striking, absolutely phenomenal stuff. We saw Shadow Creek bite some really good players. I'm always happy to go right back to Sung Jae. Adam Scott out due to COVID. Indeed. Was on Bubba last week and chose him as my one and done. Is it still smart to go back to him in GPP, even being right below Berger English, who probably have a higher upside and similar ownership? So let's look at these guys. So let's look at Bubba, who's here. So I have Bubba, English, and Berger all around 11 to 12% projected ownership. It'll probably shake out a bit differently than that. Upside, I definitely do think Berger probably has the most upside of anybody in that range. I also think that Harris English has proven to be incredibly solid. You know, he had a really poor opening Thursday rounds last week, and he was able to figure it out and backdoor his way into a top 10, grinding the rest of the week. I guess if you put it like that, if you compare Bubba to Harris English or Daniel Berger, and they're all checking in at the same ownership, I guess I wouldn't play Bubba in that situation. I guess I would give the nod to both Berger and English, assuming this ownership is right, assuming the projections are right, or the salaries are the same. I think that's a pretty good question, Anthony. Let me talk about. So I want to talk about a couple of sleepers and buy low people, which is a good segue into our Jock Market conversation. So Jock Market, if you are not playing on Jock Market, you're doing something very wrong right now. It's essentially free money at the moment. So what they're doing is they're intentionally. It's an opposite rake. Like they're running at an overlay right now, which is making it incredibly easy to win, and it's phenomenal stuff. So it's stock market DFS. So for example, this is the best way to break it down for you. It's a mobile app. I think it's on iPhone and Android at the moment. If Android is not out yet, I feel like it's out at any moment. And then they have cash market. So there's a cash market this week. So just to put this into perspective of what happened last week, I'm not sure you're going to be able to see this on the camera. I had 6 shares of Jason Kokrak. I bought 6 shares of Jason Kokrak at $4.25. He won the tournament and finished his share price at $25. So that means I made about $21 per share on Jason Kokrak over 6 shares. Someone else tweeted at me that they had like 23 shares of Jason Kokrak at like $3 or something like that. And it was phenomenal. So congratulations. Made money on Harris English, lost money on Louis Oosthuizen, Scotty Scheffler. But it was still a winning week for me. So what you do is you buy into shares of these golfers, and you can buy. There's an IPO phase that's open right now, which is, let me see here if I can pull this up. I don't know if you guys can see this. The IPO phase is up there right now. Webb Simpson is currently the highest owned golfer. This will end tonight around 9 p.m. Eastern time. And if you want to take advantage of a deposit bonus for Jock Market, make a deposit, tweet a screenshot at me and Jock Market, and they will put $10 into your account. So a lot of people took advantage of it last week, which was nice. But just scrolling through here, the conversation back to some of these sleepers, right? And some of the guys that are further down the board and what you can expect out of them. If you want to take a high risk, high approach in Jock Market, you're probably looking for, even like a Sebastian Munoz. Sebastian Munoz, he's lower down the betting board in most situations. Let me see if I can find what his current IPO price is. He had the most quiet backdoor top 10 I think I've ever seen last week. He just was like 3 or 4 rounds, 2 or 3 under par, and he finds himself in a top 10. He's currently $4.41. So that'll obviously get bid up. I'm going to put some bids in on him right now. But I would pay, I don't know, $6 for Sebastian Munoz, something like that. And then depending on his finishing position, his stock price will pay out accordingly. So you're trying to get those really highly volatile, big upside guys, maybe like a Kevin Na, maybe like a Abraham Answer, guys that you think are going to be cheaper. That's the way I play it. You could always just go buy Rory at, I don't know, $10 a share and see if he can finish in the top 5 and pay himself off. But that's the way that I play Jock Market. I think you should be playing it. I think you should be taking advantage of their deposit bonus at the moment as well. Really fun stuff. I'll try to point out some more names as we go through this for Jock Market. Matthew asks, I get that many are off of Henley and worried about regression and increase of $1,000, but if he top 10s, does he pay off his price? Where does he need to land to pay off his price of 8,100? So this is a really good question, and there might not be a great answer because, the idea of value is much more inherently obvious in basketball, or it's much more inherently obvious even in football a little bit, where getting 6 times or 5 times value on your player in basketball is going to be a real, for the most part, a really good thing. Now with different courses and some courses playing easier and more difficult, that value number changes quite a bit in golf, but we can look at the value matrix and see, 8,100, anytime you get 10 times value, you've done phenomenally, right? That means if a golfer is $10,000, they return 100 points. If they are 7,000, they return 70 DraftKings points. Anytime you get 10 times your value, it's going to be really good. So for Russell Henley at 8,100, he would have to return 81 DraftKings points to hit 10 times value. Let's look at Russell Henley over the years. This is a free tool on RickRunGood.com, and I'm not showing it to you right now. Now I am showing it to you, that you can go through and you can punch in any player. So let's do Russell Henley, and let's do all of the times that he was between 8,000 and 8,500. Let's do that. All right. So he's only been priced this way in the last, I think I'm going back 3 years or so, 5 times. Now at Shriners, which is the most recent, he returned 10.5 times value. That's great. 88 points. RSM Classic, he only returned 3. He was 8,500. He returned 26 points. Sony Open, 8 into 60. That's 7.5. That would have been okay, especially for a cut event, right? A no cut event, he's going to have to score more. He's going to have to, there's not that risk of only playing 2 rounds here. So it's been a bit hit or miss for Russell Henley. I think the short answer to your question, Matthew, I would say he needs probably 81 DraftKings points, maybe a little bit more because it's a no cut event to make me feel really happy about it. Jared says, I know you're fading Wolff. I got burned on him last week too. Do you think there was something wrong with his swing? He just has so much history, such a price drop makes him really enticing. Yeah, I got to admit, I've gone back and forth on Matthew Wolff almost all week. He was playing so well heading into last week, and he was so bad that it's almost like he's not going to be that bad again, right? I think he lost like 6 strokes around the green. He lost like a ton off the tee, which is his weapon, right? That driver's his weapon. I don't think he's injured. I know he was like limping around or whatever, but he's young. These guys play a lot. I'm sure he'll be fine. But then there's a lot of talk like, he's a member here. He's played here a lot. I believe his coach, George Gankis, used to be a member or a caddy at Sherwood. Like, they're very well versed here. But people aren't as they're much more sharp than they used to be, right? They're kind of already going back to Matthew Wolff. So I think he's going to be fairly popular. So I'm just really trying to weigh all of that. I'm probably just going to be lower. Like, I don't think he's going to be a full fade for me. I'll just be underweight, but I couldn't blame you either way. I think he's a really tough guy to figure out this week. Jared also asked, no shave November. I'm almost always kind of in on no shave month, but is that just the mustache I have to do? I'd have to get wife approval for that. It wouldn't be pretty. It'd be like Doc Redmond. I'll see if I can get in touch with Doc. He might be doing no shave November. How does the Herminator stat out? So, all right, Scott. So I'll have to update the ownership here with the Scott news that just broke. So Scott's out, meaning, ownership. He wasn't going to be too highly owned. I had him at about 10%. Probably gets a little more to Ricky. Probably gets a little more to Answer. Maybe a little more to Sungjae. Nothing too crazy here. Nothing to worry about. Herminator. Yeah. I mean, he's going to pop off like once every 2 years, right? And he's going to win, but we can pull him up. I do not like to play the Herminator. I mean, look at this. If you're ever going to try to figure out the week that he gains 15 strokes on the field, good luck. I mean, he's just bad every other week, and then he wins once a year. It's really strange. I always got to forget to switch screens. I need like a producer to help me switch screens here. I mean, you can see all of the red with a couple of just green marks in there. I'm not going to be the guy who tries to guess on the Herminator. Cantlay's interesting, Brian. So my issue with Cantlay is he hasn't been that good, right? And the only time he was good was 3 rounds at a place that he's absolutely dominated. So now it's starting to look like those 3 rounds were more of an outlier than the rest of his 2020, and especially in the restart was. It just hasn't really been a good year for him. He used to be a much safer play. He used to be a guy that, he would be T12, T16, and then he'd snap off and get you a top 5. And then he'd win every now and then. And now it's just like the floor has dropped a little bit on him, where now he's, lingering around in the 40s, and it's just, I'm kind of out on him. So that's my opinion. Favorite head-to-head matchup bet? John Vickers asks. Depends what book you have. There was one that I sent over for Golf Digest. Let me see if I can pull that up real quick. I can come back to that. I'll come back to that question. I'll try to pull up the head-to-head matchup that I had, because I want to give you the best one. Golf Digest. Here we go. I have... Oh, yeah, I love this one. Okay. Morikawa over Hideki. So that was the matchup that I went with. I can run it. I don't know if I ran it through the simulator or not. Morikawa looked much more like himself last week. I think he was 4th in strokes gained approach. He was top 10 in tee to green numbers. I have him winning this matchup about 52% of the time. If I make the window even shorter since the restart, I bet you Morikawa gets better. Yeah, he does. He goes to 58% or 57%. So I really like this. And then I try to always target guys that are a bit more volatile, like a Hideki, where the floor can get pretty low at times. So I'm going to go and buy back in on Morikawa. Andrew says, checking in from London. Love the channel. Thank you. Do you factor in tee times when they come out at all? So yes and no. Not this week, because it's 78 players. They basically all go out in one wave, right? There's not really... So normally there's a morning wave and there's an afternoon wave. And sometimes there's a stroke or two difference between the two over the first 2 days. However, when they start late and all 78 guys kind of go out at once, I don't think there's as much of an advantage or a disadvantage. And then also, I really only care about it if the weather is going to be different in one of them over another. So like if it's, Thursday morning, traditionally it's going to be, rain, maybe it's going to be windy and it's going to be whatever, and then it gets better throughout the day. Like that might be a situation where I take tee times into account, but I don't think I'm going to do it here. Drew the Baller is asking tough questions. He asks, why don't they call it Draft Queens? It's a good question. Why don't they call it Draft Queens? I wonder, does someone own DraftQueens.com? Drew, you could own that. You could set up your own site. FanDuel has been terrible lately. They are in it. So, okay, I tweeted this out. Very sympathetic to issues with your data feeds. But my goodness, to be that big of a company and to not have a contingency or a backup plan is shocking. Hey, Derek, thanks for the support. T-Money asks, will you go stars and scrubs or middle of the road? All right, good question. I'm going to switch back to my screen here. Thank you. So I already have my lineups in. So I've got all my contests entered. I did try to get a stars and scrubs approach, but again, I play the core cascading method, which you can check out on RickRunGood.com or RickRunGood YouTube channel. There's a video there. Just scroll down. And I think the idea of playing stars and scrubs is the best idea for a couple of reasons. Not only do you get the stars, and the fact that DJ is technically listed in this player pool, so now he creates a bit of a void, and he creates less guys in the 10K range, but also there is a stark difference between some of the guys in the $6,000 range, which is where you would have to go. So I mentioned this earlier. The real touring professionals, Adam Long, Harry Higgs, Brendan Steele, Joel Damon, Mackenzie Hughes, even Tyler Duncan are significantly better than the guys that are just a few $100s cheaper than them, like Sean Norris, Chan Kim, Brad Kennedy, Shugo Imihara, right? So the combination of that, where there is inherent value in this in the Tour Pro scrubs, and the fact that there is one less guy in the star category that you have to kind of decide between, that to me says play stars and scrubs. A little something different from Jay Smitty. What's your motto as a content creator, stats guru? What drove you to make this a career? Good question. So for good or bad, I try not to like tout, right? Like I understand I have to do some things. Like we make picks and I've got to put my name on fades, and like it's good content to be able to do that. And we do it for CBS Sports HQ or CBS Sports all the time, right? They want our pick to win. They want our top 10. And but I really do, my motto is like giving you the data and giving you the tools and helping you do the research for your own. I don't want to spend your money for you. You shouldn't want me to spend your money for you. You should take everything in from me and from other people, other content creators, and find something that works for you. And, you know, I don't know your risk tolerances. So I try to stay away from touting as much as possible. I hate that word. I understand it's necessary at sometimes to go on the record, make picks. It's fun. It's all that good stuff. But you know, some of it pays the bills. But that's not really what I love to be doing. And then, I mean, I just love this stuff, right? So I started doing it on the side about 5 years ago, aside my full-time job. It started to grow. I'm still very bullish and have been very bullish on the way that golf fits into the fantasy and the sports betting landscape. And we're starting to see that as odds are rolling out into the telecast and things like that. And then I just said, you know what, I got the go ahead from the missus to make this my full-time job. And I dove in and never looked back. So I think I might be one of the, I don't know how many people are doing just golf full-time. Not many of us. So it's tough, but I really love it. And there's not a lot of us doing it. Thanks for the question. I appreciate that. What is the most valuable page on your Rick Run Good site? If you had to pick one and use one, oh man, if I had to use just one, it's the strokes gained database, because not only can you look up any player, any event, anything by tournament or round, you can also go to the Holy Grail, which is something I use constantly. So for example, if you wanted to do this and filter by anything, let's say all the players in this field by Jack Nicklaus designed courses. Let's see who leads in strokes gained for Jack Nicklaus courses, and give it a second. It's a lot of data. Ryan Palmer's played 16 rounds, which is a pretty significant sample size. 2.48 strokes gained per round. Patrick Cantlay, Colin Morikawa, Justin Rose, Adam Scott. Or you could say, okay, get rid of that. I just want to do guys, you know, since the restart. So since 1/1 or 6/1/2020. Let's see how those guys are playing. Give it a second to load, and you'll see, okay, Xander Schauffele's been the best player in the field, right? 1.93. Or actually, sorry, I have to check in this field. You know, Justin Thomas is second. Webb Simpson is up there. So for me, this is incredibly valuable because you can, you know, what if I want to do just bent grass? Like I can just use this so many different ways. So to me, this is my absolute favorite if I could only use one. Rory Hovland Wolff seems too easy as a core. Am I missing too much at the higher salaries? I think it's an interesting core. I think Wolff is gaining steam as the week goes on. I think Rory could be sneaky low owned, and Hovland I just think is solid and kind of flying under the radar. So I don't know how popular that's going to be, Dave, but it would be a really good start. Can you look at some head-to-heads in the model? Kokrak versus Im, Munoz versus Horschel. Sure. So so again, I have this, let me go back to since the start of 2020. I really like that. So let's do, who was it? Kokrak versus Im. Oh, almost a dead heat. I mean, literally razor thin right now, which is kind of crazy. Kokrak 50.63 to win this matchup. Very tight, probably unbettable. And then the other one is what? Munoz versus Horschel. I think I have Munoz in here. I was messing with his profile. Okay, yeah. I was messing with his profile earlier because his name, sometimes the PGA Tour has it with an N, a tilde over the N, and sometimes they don't, and it messes with it. So I was just updating everything. So Munoz versus Horschel. Sorry. Keep losing my spot over there. Nod to Billy Ho. Yeah, wow. Billy Ho's been surprisingly good recently. I have him at 57% to Sebastian Munoz's 42%. I wonder if I make this more recent, Because Munoz has been really good recently. Wow, no, Billy Horschel still beats him in the restart. Shocking. Maybe we're overlooking Billy Horschel a little bit. Any reason to think that Long or Werenski have any top 10 equity this week? I want to say no. I'm sure that'll come back to bite me. But I think Long has more than Werenski. The good news is I don't think either of them need to, right? Based on their price, I don't think they need to finish in the top 10. Top 15 would probably be just fine. I don't think so. I think it's a very narrow path to them getting into the top 10. Best under 7K options. So I've kind of chatted about this a little bit. So there's a little confusion as well on my feelings on Jordan Spieth, because I've certainly evolved over the course of the week. I think I'm willing to play Jordan Spieth at this point. So a couple of reasons, and I mentioned this earlier in the show if you're just joining us. He was T38. Let me see if I can find this. T38 last week in the tournament, but he finished 13th in DraftKings scoring. And the reason for that is, triple bogeys, double bogeys, they don't hurt as much in DraftKings scoring as they hurt in the golf tournament. And then, of course, he makes a lot of birdies. So if you exchange birdies for bogeys, you're a net win all the time. And then the other reason that I liked him is the price tag is $6,900, which I'm trying to load up right now, but I've got a lot of things running right now. Let me see if I can pull this up. The price tag on him is essentially the lowest it's ever been. The only other time I could find a price tag on him lower was the Hero World Challenge, which is an 18-man field, so the pricing is really, really wonky. So I would argue this is the lowest price ever on Jordan Spieth, or at least in the last 3 or 4 years. So I'm going to take advantage of it. I'm going to try to snap up some Jordan Spieth this week and see what happens. It's scary, and I'm a little bit terrified of it, but that's where I'm going. Cam Champ at $6,800 and Kevin Kisner at $68 are probably my favorites under 7K. I lost my spot. Sorry. I'll try to go through these quicker so I can catch up to everybody. Do you still play online poker? No, I haven't played online poker in since I was in college. I just feel like Tiger will come out swinging. I don't know. Do you have any stats on how he plays when defending? Yeah, I don't have it handy, but I could look it up. He's Tiger Woods. He probably has pretty good stats in every situation. I'm not sure it's so much about defending as it is a different course, a putter that's not really working all that well for him. Alex asks, are we going back to Scotty Scheffler? Yeah, I think that's okay. I mean, listen, he is a birdie maker, right? He makes a ton of birdies. This is a place that might turn into a birdie fest. There's 5 par 5s. You usually can take those apart. The ownership, it's just weird, right? Like, we didn't know how he was going to return from a couple of weeks off for COVID. It hasn't been a good return. And now we're asking him to play like he was playing before the U.S. Open. I'm not sure that's that much to ask. That was just like 6 weeks ago. Thoughts on 9K, Webb versus Morikawa? Always love both of these guys. I think Webb's going to be probably significantly higher owned. He might be the highest owned golfer on the slate. I will probably take Morikawa in that situation, because he's starting to look like himself again. I think I might get him at half the ownership. Thoughts on Kanaya? Takumi Kanaya, I believe, is who you are referring to. So I don't have any thoughts on Takumi Kanaya. However, my co-host on the First Cut Pod on the CBS Sports Network, Mark Immelman, does have thoughts on Takumi Kanaya. Basically, Mark coached him, I believe, I think he coached him at, I'm going to get this wrong, International President's Cup, something like that, some event. Kanaya was on that team. Apparently his game, he's the real deal. He actually has pretty good odds to be like top Asian, right behind Hideki, Benyon, and Sungjae. He's like 10-1, which behind those touring pros is kind of incredible. So I don't know. Don't take my word for it. That's me passing along some comments that Mark told us earlier. So that's where I'm at. Where can we get some Bachelorette DFS previews for FanDuel? Probably right here. What do you want to know? She's an older Bachelorette. Although I don't know how fantasy works, but from what I understand, she torpedoes this season, right? Spoiler alert. She goes home with that guy like after a week, and they're going to have to start over and bring in a new Bachelorette. So I don't know what's going to happen. It's chaos. How are they going to pay out the fantasy world? We could do an update on Dancing with the Stars odds. I didn't see last week, but I don't know. Well, I don't know if the odds have moved. I bet you Neve was pretty good. I'll have to check. But whatever you want. I don't know. Send me the rules on Bachelorette DFS. We'll look into it. Thoughts on Kevin Streelman? Generally always the same. He's a good ball striker. He can pop off, and he has top 10 equity in most events that he's played. What did I just sort by that he showed up? I just sorted by, it wasn't Nicholas courses. Maybe it was since the restart. I mean, Streelman is what he is. He's just going to be a good ball striker. He has top 10 equity, much more than a lot of the other guys in his price range. Where did you get the tiger picture in the back? Yeah, this one. So I don't know if you can see that. That is a cartoon tiger clawing a 5 into a tree with a green jacket on, obviously signifying his 5th Masters victory. I'd have to get the artist for that. It's an artist I found online, ordered a print, put it behind me for the backdrop. Okay. One and done with 2 golfers at the Masters, so 4 picks left. Have Finau, Rahm, Rory, Koepka use Rahm this week? So then what? You'd play Rory and Koepka at the Masters? Yeah, that's fine. How do you feel about Harman this week? Yeah, so Matt makes a good point about Harman and guys like Harman. And I twisted my brain, kind of got into a pretzel about this earlier in the week, where Harman's a cut maker, which is good and bad. It's good because he's, in theory, that means you're playing better than the field average over the course of the first 2 days. The problem is there's not as much value in that this week because it's a no-cut event and it's 4 guaranteed rounds. So I'd actually almost prefer guys that actually have more upside than guys that are might just finish 53rd. Like, I don't think there's as much value in Harman in a no-cut week. Now, if he finishes, I mean, he does have a couple of good finishes, like top 15 finishes in his last couple of starts. So I don't think Harman's the exact guy that I'm referencing here, but kind of think about that, right? I mean, there's no added benefit of getting a 6 of 6 through because there's no cut line. So I think in general, you should take on more of a higher risk. Is Morikawa really projected at 15%? I think he's projected highest owned on Fantasy National. I have no idea how they do that. I can tell you how I do it. I aggregate ownership from 3 different sources. I grade it and I pass along the best ones to you guys. So I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. He could be higher owned. He could be less owned. These have historically been pretty accurate. I don't know how everybody else is doing it. Go with what you think is best. How do you feel about, I won't do whole lineups. $125 on the free Jock Market NFL weekend. It's free money out there. They're literally giving free money out on Jock Market. And if you deposit, send me a screenshot, tag me, tag Jock Market, and they'll give you 10 more free dollars. It's pretty awesome. And you can just take a screenshot of like this page. Here, I'll show you. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. So hold on. ZOZO Championship. Take a picture of this screen. The one that has like the player lobby. Just take a picture of that after you've deposited. Tag me in it. They'll send you 10 more free dollars. How would you wait around the green this week? So here's the issue. Unfortunately, I don't know. I don't really want to guess here. I think the idea that they made it a lot more member friendly makes it a bit easier around the greens. I would love to run the regression model. We don't have enough. We don't have any recent data, especially since they redid the greens and things like that. So I'm not going to speculate. Historically, strokes gained around the green is not all that important. But I can't say for sure. I'm not taking it too seriously. Almond bread. keeps asking about the ownership. If you have Webb as 40th ranked, I think your ownership model might be wrong. I don't know. It's whatever you think is best. I certainly could be wrong. Ownership is very difficult. It's why I don't project it myself. So I don't have good answers for you on that. Oh boy. One and done ends at the Masters. I'm in the lead by 1 million. Top players I have left: Reed, Finau, Rose, Tiger. Do I use Reed here and Tiger at the Masters? Probably. I don't really love Tiger at the Masters, but since you're in the lead, and I think a lot of people will use Tiger at the Masters, it might be hard to catch you. So I would only ever deploy him in that situation if I was in the lead. Cam Champ. Yeah, I think I mentioned Cam Champ a little bit earlier. So Cam Champ has the one elite skill set, right? The fact that none of these par fives are over 600 yards. I mean, he might be hitting 8-iron into some of these things. Also, I think that he is much better in the other categories than most people want to remember. He's actually gotten a lot better over the course of the last year or so. Greg, first of all, Greg, thank you. Greg's the man. I don't feel the Tiger rule applies anymore. No crowd, certainly not the same player, and the young guns absolutely love the opportunity to play and beat him. Hard to argue. Greg's sharp. Greg knows what he's talking about. Really hard to argue with that sentiment. My wife says I veto your participation in No Shave November if it means a long mustache. So there you go. Whoever asked about No Shave November, I think we just got vetoed. Can you talk about scoring versus real life scoring? Saw that Corey Connors scored better in DK than showed up on the scorecard last week. Yeah, I mean, so I used to have a tool for this. It used to be called Most Valuable Golfer. It was kind of wonky. It was a tool I just kind of built out of whatever, but maybe I need to bring something like this back. But the way it works is very simple. The scoring on the PGA Tour and your finishing position on the tournament is not reflected by the same way it is reflected in fantasy scoring. So, if you go on the PGA Tour, if you go birdie bogey, you're even par. If you go birdie bogey on DraftKings, you're plus what, 2.5, because a birdie is 3 and a bogey is minus a half a point. So you are much more advantageous to shoot an even par round with 9 birdies and 9 bogeys on DraftKings, where in the golf tournament it doesn't mean anything. So there are always guys that outperform their finishing position. Historically, it's just these really volatile birdie makers like a Tony Finau, guys that can rack up birdie streaks. Jordan Spieth is now probably the prime example of that in the current form of Jordan Spieth, right? Where he rattles off 5 birdies in a row, then he goes double-double. That's much better in fantasy scoring than it is in the golf tournament. So maybe I'll bring back a tool that allows us to quickly show that, but you can just easily glance at the live leaderboard that I have on RickRunGood.com and just kind of see the way that they compare to one another. It's quite jarring, I should say. John Vicker says, you're the man. No, John, you are the man. Thanks, bud. Jason Day, Gary Woodland lineups for leverage. Day, yes. Woodland, no, I don't think so. So Day, I think, is a good forgive and forget, buy back in on type of guy. Played well for the most part. He got hurt and he withdrew. If he's playing this week, he probably feels a lot better. Woodland is apparently playing with a torn labrum in his hip. He lost 11 strokes. Let me show this to you. I haven't shown you a screen here in a while. Let me show you strokes gained database for. I'm just going to show everything in the database. So we're talking about, like, I don't know how many tens of thousands of rounds there are in here. And I'm just going to sort by the worst off the tee events ever. Okay. So this is the last 6 years. And some of them are stats I wouldn't necessarily trust, like the women's Olympic golf competition. I have a lot of data, but like, you get the point. Here's Gary Woodland. It was like the 9th worst off the tee performance last week by any golfer in the last 6 or 7 seasons. I mean, he lost 11 strokes off the tee for a guy where that's supposed to be his weapon. Clearly, if it's the torn labrum that's bothering him, yeah, it would make sense. I wonder if he's going to take any time off. So I would say Day for leverage, Gary Woodland, no. Thanks, Rick. You're welcome. Yeah, I won't dive into the Spieth stuff again. Rewind a little bit, Justin. I spent like 5 minutes on it, which was probably too much, but, yeah, I do elaborate on, I understand the risk of Jordan Spieth. I like it more than I don't. I see Tiger Woods. I click. I don't blame you, but it won't be me. Yeah, talked about Champ a little bit. Kisner's interesting. So actually Kisner popped up when I did the Holy Grail, and I said, since the restart, give me all the guys, just rank them by strokes gained total. And the first guy that you get to, who is under $7,000 is actually Kevin Kisner, right? So he's been better than Brian Harman, who's $500 more expensive. He's actually been better per round than Hideki, who's $1,500 more. So obviously there's different ways to go about gaining those strokes. Oh, sorry. Maybe you couldn't see that right here. But $6,800. He's the first guy under 7,000 since the restart. So I do like Kisner. Chris asks, when playing stars and scrubs, how do you choose your scrubs? I usually go for volatility and upside. So like an Adam Long is maybe better than, well, let's go see. Adam Long might be better than Tyler Duncan. Adam Long's actually won a PGA Tour event. Brendan Steele might be better than Joel Damon, again, winning upside. Guys that don't necessarily win, like Corey Connors, I guess, has won, but not in a while. Hoagie's contended a little bit. I just look for upside. I don't want, if I'm doing stars and scrubs and I'm trying to win all the money, I don't want my scrub to finish T31. I want him to finish T7 and bring it all in. The only thing PGA Tour, oh wait, sorry, I missed one here. Hold on. Love the site. Thanks, Tyler. What do you think about Cam Champ versus Jordan Spieth? Let's do it. Cam Champ. Got a lot of data in here. Here we go. Champ versus, who was it? Spieth? Was it Spieth? Yeah. I spelled his name wrong. I have Spieth still winning this 66% of the time. I'm sorry, 53% of the time. It just updated on me. It's got a lot of data coming in. Let's go since the start. That's since the restart. Jordan Spieth, 53%. Let's go to since the start of the year. Cam Champ gets the nod there, 52%. I mean, they're both, honestly, look at this. They kind of both been in lockstep a bit. But Champ has been a hair better since the 2020 calendar year. Very interesting. The only thing the PGA TV telecast needs is updated DFS points like any NFL game. You are preaching to the choir. Absolutely agree. They should be adding it to the leaderboards and all that good stuff. Completely agree. I think we're sleeping on Hubbard. I actually kind of think we are too. He popped up in par 5 scoring. He's very cheap at 6,400. He's coming off of a top 20. I actually do agree with the fact that we might be sleeping on Hubbard. All this talk about Spieth makes me wonder if it's good to take a chalky guy. Well, what do we think? What do we think Spieth's going to end up being? I have him at about 8.8%. I could be way off. We could be steaming him right now, and we could be helping to raise that number. I don't know. All right, I'm going to try to run through these quickly here in the last couple of minutes. So last call for questions. I'm going to try to just run through as quick as possible. Straight vodka. Yes, I'm drinking straight vodka. In the Holy Grail, I know you can factor in the course par number. Is it possible to factor in course distances at all anywhere on the site? Blake, good question. Not yet. Coming soon. I'll add that in. You can settle by course course history. Cam Smith or Kevin Na? God, I'm not really a fan of either, Derek. Man. Nah. Yeah, probably nah. Flip a coin. I don't know. That one's really tough. I think Na actually has more upside. Cam might be a hair safer. I don't really like either of them. Jim asked, do you still do the videos after lock where you go through your core lineup for the weekend and thought process? No, but I should. You know, it's one of these situations where there's only so many days in the week, and unfortunately the the world of content creating, right? I'm trying to get the Monday video out for the new slate as much as possible. So there's not a lot of look back, but there should be. I don't know if that's something I could do Sunday night. I don't want to lock myself into potentially doing something every Sunday night. I think that might be tough. I agree with the sentiment that there probably needs to be more look back strategy and conversation. When I've done it in the past, they haven't been nearly as popular. I don't think people care as much. I think it is valuable though. Maybe I can figure out a way to work it in. Oh man, are we trying to sneak onto the course? Yeah, let me know how it goes. It's I'm relatively close, obviously. Kyle says you're the man. Thanks. Ryan, Bubba or Neiman for single entry? Kind of like both of them. Neiman. Bubba could catch some steam this week in single entries. All right. I think that'll do it. I'm out of questions. I've gotten down to the bottom. So I'm going to get Chan Kim flyer. I don't know anything about Chan Kim. So I would say no. Why don't we ever get to see a bet slip? So Greg, it's a good question. Technically I do. It's on Sportsline. So Sportsline is a sister company of CBS Sports that I have a relationship. Obviously I have a relationship with CBS Sports and then I have a relationship with Sportsline. But it's behind a paywall. So I do two articles for Sportsline that are technically exclusive to them, which is why if you're not on Sportsline, you're not seeing it. So it is a top 30 power ranking every single week where it doesn't really take into account salaries. I just rank the top 30 players in the field and with little blurbs on each one. And then the other one is my best bets of the week. So it's basically my bet slip, right? It says the odds, outrights, top fives, top tens, matchups, and units to go along with it. It's again, that's probably the one thing that I understand it. It's that's the closest thing to touting that I do, and I don't necessarily love it, but it's a good relationship for me to have. It allows me to keep track of everything. It allows me to put my thoughts on paper, and there's a strategy into building a betting slip and a card as opposed to just being like, here's the 5 outrights that I bet. There's a lot more strategy that goes into an actual slip. So it's a good question. It is technically on Sportsline. You could see it. It is behind a paywall. I don't have any control over it. So I get a lot of questions that are like, if I subscribe to Rick Run Good, do I get a subscription to Sportsline too? No, sorry. I don't have any control over it. So keep that in mind. So that's the answer. All right. A couple things as we wrap up. Best of luck. Download Jock Market. Play the cash market, deposit, send me a screenshot. They'll send you another $10. Support the people that are doing it right. I think Jock Market is doing it right. I think that's it. Appreciate the support. Listen to the First Cut Pod on CBS Sports Podcasting Network. I'll be on hosting recaps after every single round this week. Download and subscribe. Really appreciate your support, guys. Best of luck with everything, and take care.